So, hello everyone. This is the after party. We just realized we didn't talk about three other major things that happened this. Sorry, two other major things that happened this week. So, the first was the Reclaim rally, which was in Melbourne, I think.
It was in all cities around
Ah,
Australia.
You know
yeah,
what
Uh,
would have been really great for the Reclaim Australia? Like if they were just interested in building dikes. They're really worried about sea level rising, and they just wanted to
I
like
love it.
increase the size of. They would have increased the size of Sydney by literally building out into the ocean. That would have been great. I would have loved that.
I I love that idea, and I want to take that to the next rally.
Yeah, that's it. We should do that. We should absolutely do that. Next time they have one of those
More
rallies,
dikes,
we'll
more
go
dikes.
there. That's it. More dikes. And have that on a banner because they'd love it. Those guys are all. Anyway.
Yeah. So actually, so my favorite thing about this was there was a counter protest to it, and the counter protest was more violent.
Yeah.
this always happens with the idea of the feral left is to when right wing groups are holding a rally such as this is to cause as much violence as possible. So it looks on the news like, look how terrible these right wing people are. Their rallies turn violent, even though they were the ones that caused all of the violence.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's a tactic on their part, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it actually, like on this one, it made the racists look like the peaceable ones, which I thought was hilarious.
Well,
Uh,
you only got of that story from a few media outlets. Most of the mainstream media just said, "Oh, it was violence everywhere."
really, I was watching Channel 7. I
I mean, like, I think there's. I mean, it's not just this thing, but just generally speaking, like when unionists tear up stuff, which is not like that unusual when they have protests. Like, didn't they rip break into the federal parliament once as well?
That
Like
was back in 1996 with
yeah,
the
you know,
Defence Relations Act.
yeah. So it's not exactly like unionists tearing stuff up is like a new thing.
no, it's
Yeah.
not. But my favorite thing about this entire thing was the people who were protesting for for restricting immigration, right, were labeled as racist, right? And at the same time, the other side, which also wants a lockdown, and there were photos of this appearing on my Facebook wall from Helen Dale and others who just found the irony delicious, of a whole bunch of left wingers saying, stop 457s
Yeah.
and the CFMEU banner at this thing, and it's just like, wait, I don't understand this. How are you guys different? Because it's just like, one side wants all immigration to stop, the other side wants all immigration except a small increase in asylum seekers to go.
Well,
It's just like,
but the left, they were always mainly support the victim group, and so they view Muslims as a victim group who they're going to defend most. And I don't think they consider Chinese or Indian people now as a victim group anymore. So that's why they're comfortable holding 457 visa signs up. So it's all about.
sorry, you'll have to make that point a little clearer to me.
Well, the uh, the reason why they're holding up the left-wing people are holding up these anti-immigration signs, they're only against people of Asian background or Indian background
Yep.
because they're no longer victim groups in their eyes. But Muslims are the main victim group currently, and so therefore that's the only type of racism they consider bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're following what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like,
if you
I get where you're coming from now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
victim
So-
groups come and go. You've
yeah.
so
So progressives like the racism is only against people who are of like lesser have less power than the mainstream, whatever that means.
Yes,
And
yes.
Muslims have less power, but Indians and Chinese and all this sort of stuff they don't. They're generally okay.
You saw the anti-Chinese campaign the New South Wales Labor Party ran in the election campaign. I mean, yeah,
That was terrible. I was sitting
yeah,
there going like, "Fucking hell!" It's like Arthur Caldwell's back.
Yeah.
yeah. Racism against Chinese people. That's so
Oh,
20 years ago.
That's
Well,
so like
okay.
1900.
That's so 1950.
Yeah. It's
what
like
I was
probably
just
1870s
sorry,
as well.
I should probably make this clear to other people. So Arthur Caldwell was a former Labor. Sorry, he used to basically be the president of the Labor Party. Was it president or?
No, he
He
was the
was the
leader.
leader.
He was
leader.
yeah, he was the leader of the Labor Party
Yeah,
when there
from
was this big
1960 to 1967
yeah
before Gough Whitlam.
yeah before Gough Whitlam, and basically he famously said in Parliament, two Wongs don't make a white. He was one of the most prolific supporters of White Australia policy, and a major thorn in basically Gough Whitlam and that entire sort of progressive component of the Labor Party that wanted to basically change their position on this.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, the Labor Party was the party that introduced White Australia policy in this
absolutely.
country. So
I mean, I think from a libertarian perspective, I think both the Reclaim Australia and the anti-Reclaim Australia protests were just stupid. Like,
well, yeah, I couldn't actually find anything they really disagreed on, except on like the number of asylum seekers that should be coming into this country.
yeah,
And when as entirely I expected it to go just a huge shit fight in the street.
yeah. Which has its own. There's like it's kind of funny in its own terrible way.
So
But
because the Reclaim Australia is a street protest organisation, all types of different people are coming to these events with different ideas, and so there's there's never going to be a coherent message.
So I remember seeing a 14 and 88 thing, and I've learnt way more about National Socialism than I ever really wanted to. So 88, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is Heil Hitler, and 14 is the 14 words that are allegedly come out of his book about like the purity of white blood. It's fucking ridiculous, but that was prevalent at Reclaim Australia apparently.
Yeah.
At least the photos that I saw of different people with the 14 and 88 proudly displayed. But what I found interesting was that people who were trying to basically get to stores in the area,
that was. I'm
they
not sure if
were assaulted. Yeah.
you saw the guy in Melbourne. He was like just getting a coffee, and the socialists basically like anyone who comes in our way, we're going to. And so they threw him to the ground and kicked him.
Yeah.
They're just he got in the way of their rage. So
Yeah. So I'm not upset that they got pepper sprayed. This is a thing, right? Normally, I'm sitting there and going like, "Oh, police abuse," It's...
well,
I've never liked that when they pepper sprayed the socialists. I can't remember a time when they didn't deserve to be pepper sprayed. In fact, if you look at how like the left behave, like unionists in particular, look what they did when they shut down the Boral site. You think cops should really pepper spray socialists a bit more often, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm not sure if you're aware of it being in different cities, but the socialists have been shutting down Melbourne on Friday nights every now and then about the Aboriginal community shutting. That's like, oh, well, since, the government shutting down remote Aboriginal communities, we're going to shut down, the white people's communities and, see how you like it. And so they've done it twice so far.
By the way, it's not really shutting down a community if you're rationalizing them, right?
Yeah.
You don't really need 500 fucking community centers, okay?
Oh well. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Maybe we should talk about that next thing. But I mean, it's like it's. I don't have any sympathy for anybody who got pepper sprayed at all at any of these events. Like they generally they're all pretty stupid.
So like I said, I'm a bit of a bleeding heart libertarian on this one, and so usually, I'm like, oh, do you really need to pepper spray? But yeah, in some cases, in this one, I just sit there going, sorry guys, I have no way of defending that.
We should say, in the words of Tim Wilson, send in the water cannons.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. How about moving on to a slightly better topic?
Maybe we should just buy the space where they hold these rallies and then just ban them. So then there's no government bans on protests, but we just force them out. I'm in favour of that. Both the racists and the anti-racists. Anyway, so you're gonna go on to.
Sorry. So I was gonna say on to slightly better news: free trade with Iran. It's finally gonna be reality.
Freer, probably.
Yeah. Well. So here's the thing, right? A lot of the anti-Iran position comes out of the political position. Sorry, comes out of political necessity to ally with Israel. So the thing is that for the longest time, there have been, I want to say, ministers inside the Irani, various Iranian regimes, who basically talk about, wiping Israel off the face of the earth and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
So
So there's
that was
concern. So there's always been a bit of concern that they're going to acquire weapons and actually use their military capability to start delivering this kind
that
of.
was under Ahmadinejad who said wipe Israel off the map. He was,
Yeah.
I think, term limited, and the new president is a much more moderate, in the or as moderate as you can be in a theocracy, but he's doesn't have any rhetoric like that.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, to be fair, like there is widespread anti-Semitic views across the Middle East, and Israel isn't perfect. Like I've come around. I think Lee Kavanagh in particular sort of turned me around a bit on this in terms of Israel. The state of Israel is just like every other state in the known universe. They're not perfect. They do dumb stuff. The Palestinians do dumb stuff as well. And so no one's the good guy, purely the good guys. Israel's probably, at least they are democratic and they have some rights. Like, it's, if you go, let's compare Israel to Hamas, clearly Israel's a better place to live. But,
However, I really wish Israel would stop saying the only democracy in the Middle East. Because
Turkey might disagree.
Turkey, yeah. So firstly, Turkey. Secondly, Iran. Iran's been a democracy for fucking ages, man.
Yeah.
Like,
and they have real elections.
Turkey is ruled by, and it has been ruled by an Islamist party, which has tried to.
But they got caned at the last elections, and legitimately. I mean, like that. I think Iranian elections are relatively free as well. Probably not like as good as Israeli elections, but relatively. They've got a free press. They actually, Iranian women are better educated than almost anybody in the Middle East.
That Iraq and Afghanistan are democracies.
Yeah. But nevertheless, anyway, I mean, let's just go back to Iran. Yes. There is genuine anti-Jewish sentiment. They are held as boogeymen. And, that is a real thing. Having said that, I think ultimately, like, I don't, maybe I'm just not neocon enough, but I would have thought that the whole notion of mutual annihilation, that is, if you attack Israel, there will be nothing left but a smoking crater of your country. So therefore, don't start bombing Israel because we're going to defend them. Like, I would have thought that would probably be enough incentive to stop them from flinging nukes at anyone. I mean, it's not exactly like if Hamas shows up in Jerusalem with a nuke that everyone's going, oh my gosh, how did Hamas get this nuclear weapon? Like, the first thing they're going to do is start lobbing ICBMs at Iran. Like,
so here's the thing, right? Iran doesn't actually trust Hamas enough to give them a nuke.
Yeah.
Right? No one trusts Hamas enough to give them a nuke. Right? Just so firstly, that entire not even the intelligence people in Israel have considered that a valid scenario.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yes, Benjamin Netanyahu considers it a valid scenario, but that's because he's Bibi and he gets to come up with all sorts of crazy shit and people believe him.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the way it's always been. But all of that aside, right? There's never really been an argument against an energy program, a nuclear energy program in Iran, and it's always confused me why. Like, the main reason it was done is to prevent them from having any leveraging power in the UN, right? Because once you have a nuke, right, then the sanctions stop, right? You take a look what happened once North Korea got the nuke, right? A lot of the economic sanctions dropped, right? There's still some of them, but as soon as you have that nuke, you've got some bargaining power. And that's what needs to change.
Well, I mean, I don't think that they want a nuke. I mean, Israeli intelligence have said that they don't want a nuke. So
Iran's not going to be able to make one under this deal. I mean, there's
strict, allegedly,
strict.
I don't believe that. I don't believe any governments ever. So I was just sitting there going like, "Oh, come off it. They'll do something."
I mean, the bottom line is
they'll get close.
Like, if you actually want to stop Iran from nuking Israel, you want them to trade. Like,
yes.
Bastiat trades, when goods don't cross borders, soldiers do. And that is true everywhere in the world. So if you want to stop Iranian aggression, then you want to have trade. And I think what it really is about trying to stop Iranian geopolitical significance. Yeah, they just and the Saudis are in it as well as Israel. They don't want Iran to be a power, and they could be. because they're really they're relatively well educated. They plenty enough people to be affluent, and it's probably even a less backward society than somewhere like Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it is a moderate Middle Eastern country.
Yeah.
I don't mean that it's, I'd like to live there,
Yeah.
but it's definitely better than Saudi Arabia.
Well, they let their women drive. The women aren't covered head to toe. Like,
And a lot of the younger people like the youth in Iran have been, pushing for this deal with the US because they want, to
Yeah.
live in a globalized world, and they, don't weren't around when the revolution happened, and so haven't, had all this, theocratic stuff. You know.
And like I think it's like 40% of the population is like under 25 or something ridiculous.
It's really huge.
It's a really young country. Like,
yeah.
I mean, in some ways, I think this is just the US piling on stupidity after stupidity. Like, they had all that nonsense with the Shah. I mean, it's just US meddling in the Middle East, and they've screwed it up a billion times before, and all they're doing is continuing to just be a bunch of dickheads about it, rather than just saying, "Hey, let's not try to run the other countries for them."
The US neocons, they're still bitter and twisted about, first overthrowing the Shah, and B, the hostage, taking in, 1979. They haven't forgotten that.
Well, put it this way: if the Iranians did to the US what the US did to Iran, the US would have taken Iranian hostages in the embassy as well. Like, what happened to the US was perfectly deserved because they were they propped up a dictator. Like, you don't get to do that in another country.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I necessarily agree that US diplomats deserved what happened in that. Yeah.
Well,
I'm just like, come on, guys. Yeah. Look, personally, I think the fall of the Shah should have the way the Islamists took over was not the way a civilized takeover is meant to happen, right? Ideally, the United States should have been allowed to leave the country, right? With their embassy, leave the country, and ideally the transition should have been as peaceful as possible. But having said that, though, yes, I agree. The United States
has
been a very bad actor in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, like if a foreign nation was propping up a dictator in Australia, would the agents of that foreign government be fair? Like, I mean. It was bad for the diplomats what happened to them, but nevertheless, I don't think that you can just say, well, they're perfectly innocent. Like, the whole US government was involved.
I don't think they were innocent. But like, at the same time, I'm just like, well, look.
I mean, the Shah was not a nice guy. Like, he did terrible things.
He did terrible things. But like I said, there's a notion of process that you should have.
But I think the main conclusions we can draw from this deal is that it'll allow for the Iranian economy to grow, to trade, and with prosperity comes more education and more enlightenment, and hopefully in 20, 30 years' time we can see a less medieval country.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to... Mostly because I'm exhausted at the stage. I'm going to say I want to call it.
Sure. No worries. Cool. Thanks for joining us for the after party, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.